always been this thing on me that I know it's from God to lead others, to preach his word. Even I knew that I would be a preacher from a young age. We can spread the message in many different and creative ways. I just get a joy in seeing others win, seeing others overcome. It's countercultural because a lot of times in the Western world or here in America, things are about, climbing to the top. We're not strong in all areas. And so we need people that have the expertise. And so it's just about being honest with yourself.
Welcome back to the Rendered Hope podcast. My name is Phillip Carroll, and I am your gracious host. This is episode 8, and I'm so excited that you guys continue to tune in and keep up with what we're doing. I encourage you, please like the YouTube video, subscribe to the channel, leave a rating on Spotify, and leave some comments. Let me know what kind of guests would you like to hear. Give us some feedback, and we're going to definitely take those things into account. I'd love to do a Q&A episode with you guys here in the future, so feel free to start leaving those in the comments. Today we have a very special episode. I am joined by my friend, Joshua Nyarko. He is actually one of my partners here with Rendered Hope. We get into that a little bit on this episode. We don't quite go in depth. That's going to come soon. But I really enjoyed the conversation that we had. We talk about family, we talk about business, we talk a little bit about ministry, and how do we manage our time, and how do we capitalize on every opportunity that we have. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy. This is my episode with Joshua Nyarko. It's so good to be with you. I know we've talked for a few weeks about getting this episode done, so I'm glad we were able to find this time and just talk, man. I know you're doing a lot. You got family, you're launching business, you got ministry,
Right.
you got work, you got a new house. A lot is going on for you. You still got a relatively newborn in the house.
That's
So it's
right.
just exciting times for sure. But I wanted to get you on here and just talk about some of the things that you're doing and some of the things that, I know what you're doing, but you're doing something that is for the benefit of the people as a whole. Through
Yeah.
social media, through activity. So it's called Catalyst Kind.
Yes, sir.
So before you get into that, could you kind of just tell the people about who you are and what you do?
Sure. All right. Well, first, I'm honored to be on here. Thanks for having me. You are someone that we value, Philip, and we love you and what you have going on. We believe in it. We stand for it. Rendered Hope is definitely giving hope to the people. So it's an honor to be on this platform right now. But yeah, who I am, my name's Joshua, as you guys can see. And I'm a child of God, first and foremost. I exist to worship the Lord. Everything that I do, I want it to be pleasing to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm also a husband. My wife, Michelle, that's my helpmate. I love her dearly. And I'm also a father. I'm a father of 3 children, my boys, Samuel, Judah, and Noah. And then I'm also a son. And so, my parents raised me up to be the man that I am today. And so I'm just grateful to God to be here and just to talk to you a bit about, what's going on with me and answer any questions that you may have for me as well.
That's awesome. So with that being said, I did meet your parents a few weeks ago. Just lovely people.
Yeah. Thank you.
So part of what you're doing and part of what you're launching and things we've talked about is this brand you've created alongside your wife called Catalyst Kind.
Yes, sir.
Could you talk about that? Where did it come from? Talk about the name and how people can get inspired and involved with it.
Sure. I'd love to. It's been said about me and my wife that we are catalysts. Basically, we are looked at as pioneers, change agents. We don't try to blend in. We try to stand out. And we believe that's what we're called to be as Christians, as believers. The Bible talks about us being salt and light, and being the salt of the earth. We got to bring flavor to it, and being the light, we got to let the light of Christ shine in others. And so with this catalyst movement, we're going through like a lot of names and that pretty much stood out. And then kind, basically when you think about like mankind or, kind representing like people, but then also kind, kindness being like a fruit of the spirit. It's so much good about kind. And so when you put the two together, it was just something that stuck and it fit well. And there was something that a very important woman of God to me used to always say to me before she passed away. And she attends the church, so she used to attend the church where my parents go to. And every time she would see me, she would say, Joshua, lead the people, lead the people. And so if you look at our tagline, it says lead the kind. And so that's just another way of saying to lead the people. And so by
Wow.
us exercising, by us eating healthy, living right, what it's all about is being a good steward of the body that God has given us. And so we got to maintain it well. When you're talking about doing ministry and everything that I have to do in my household and for the glory of God, I need to be able to endure. I need stamina. I need endurance. And so even as I'm growing older, I refuse to just let age dictate how I'm going to move about. So sometimes people think when you're getting older, you're just deteriorating and your body's breaking down, shutting down. No, it's a choice. You have the option to be the difference, even in your family, in your community, and in your circle. And so that's what Catalyst Kind is all about. It's about exercising, it's about health and wellness, and doing it because this is what God wants us to do.
That's awesome. And I know that you're still in the building blocks of what's going on, and
Yes, sir.
still branching out in terms of the vision and how people can really embrace not only the belief system and the
Yeah.
ideals that you're spreading, but also social gatherings and things that people can get tapped into. I know recently you came off of a multi-day fast to cleanse, and
Yes.
a lot of people decided to get involved through through social media and things like that. And it's so great to see because it's something you believe in, and you're tying it into your identity as a son and child of God, but you're not
That's
making
right.
it this thing where it's an evangelistic effort that's so exclusive, right? You're
That's
making
correct.
the principle stronger than the those who can participate.
That's correct.
So, with that being said, where does this desire come from? You talked about, the woman in your life that used to encourage you to lead the people,
Yes.
and
Yes.
your idea of kindness being a strong motivating factor. But, what is it about some of your life experiences or things you've been involved with that have led you to this point where you've felt confident to not just do it for yourself, but to spread
Yeah.
your desire of doing so to the way you lead the people?
Right. Wow. It's a great question. From when I was younger, I've always seen that I was a leader in things like people would gravitate towards me and then kind of like I would lead them into doing new initiatives or bring them into things. I think back even to my earlier days where I went to Catholic school growing up in the Bronx in New York. And I remember fondly the times that we would go out for recess. There were times that I would gather a group of kids together and say, hey, we're going to go inside and we're going to actually do like Bible study and Bible devotion. And I had a good group coming in with me, and we called it like the Goodfellows Club or the Goodfellas Club. And so, there's just this thing, always been this thing on me that I know it's from God to lead others, to preach his word. Even I knew that I would be a preacher from a young age. And preaching is not just exclusive where you're in a church doing it within the four walls. So just as you said, we can spread the message in many different and creative ways, especially in this time in like 2024 where we are. But specifically when it comes to the exercise part of it, I've always been into sports. I've always been active. Growing up, I played some basketball. I am Ghanaian, so my dad played soccer growing up, or football, the real
Little
football.
football, little football.
Yeah, the real football. Come on. And so, some of those things are in me, right? To be active. And so, I remember vividly how 2020, it's like a lot of people had to go inside and things were shut down. You couldn't do your normal routine. And I remember one thing that you could do is If you wanted to go outside and get some fresh air, you can go outside, you can go for a run, you can jog. And that used to be so liberating to me. There was a joy that I would get just from going outside and going on a run and sometimes
No
praying and
traffic.
speaking to the Lord, no traffic. So, and then we would gather people to come and be a part of that as well. And we would start it off with prayer, devotion, a little bit of exercise, sometimes go on a trail, sometimes make it a prayer walk. There was just a lot of things that came from that. So this is where the inspiration comes from, to gather others and say, hey, come and be a part of this movement because it's going to benefit you in the long run.
It's interesting that, you doing that as your hobby has led you to creating and developing a form of business. And I
Yes, sir.
think what's so interesting about it is so many people coming out of that, period of time, now that we're about 4 solid years removed from COVID and
Yeah.
everything that happened with the pandemic. Um, I know for me, I didn't have the opportunity because I was considered an essential worker, that I didn't
Right.
really have a quarantine. My quarantine was
Got you.
spent at work,
Wow. Yeah.
and living from, you know, st- um, what do we have? The stimulus plans
Yeah.
and
That's right.
the holiday pays and the stimulus pay, and I didn't really have that perspective that a lot of people had, but
Mm.
I read about it. I heard about it. This form of loneliness and depression that came upon people from being antisocial, from being
Right.
stuck in the house, from
That's
not
right.
being able to go to church. You and I go to the same church, and we saw
Yes.
such growth because we didn't shut down during the pandemic.
Come
So a
on.
lot of people who were not allowed to go to their own churches, we had the benefit of having such young and bold leadership. We're just going to do
Right.
the best we can. So a lot of people who were stuck at home, because of the conditions of COVID,
Yes.
eventually made their way to us and stuck around. And but seeing so many people without the avenue of social interaction
Right.
and ministerial progress, and a lot of people getting laid off from work or not
Yes.
able to work or losing their houses, I
Mm.
think what you're doing is such a strong reminder of the power that comes in that form of community,
Come
you
on.
know
Yes,
where
sir.
it's not just we're surrounded and surrounding each other because we have the same mindset, because we have the same reason to be here, but through passions and through hobbies and
Yeah.
through activities. So what you're doing is really just a result of need, right? Because while
Right.
you might have a platform that's promoting exercise and spiritual, physical, emotional, and
Excuse me.
mental wellness, at the
Yeah.
core of it, it's really just about advancing in our humanity and advancing in community.
Exactly.
So growing up, you mentioned you're Ghanaian, and I spent
Yes, sir.
many years living in a Ghanaian household. I was even going through my memories on Facebook the other day and found 10 years ago this week, US 2, Ghana 1 in the World Cup.
Ooh, I
And
remember
just
those times.
seeing, I was watching a video clip and it was like 20 people in a room celebrating and just remembering, the just how strong, in Ghanaian culture family is, right?
Yes.
You don't see
Come
it as
on.
strongly in the American household,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Would you say kind of your culture and your upbringing really play a part in your desire to do this? Because it would be so easy for you to do this by yourself and create a
Yes.
page and become the
Right.
next David Goggins and running
Right.
ultra marathons, but you've decided to make your platform a social one.
Correct.
How would you say that your upbringing and the things you've learned growing up really played a role in what you're doing now?
Oh, I would say it played a tremendous role in that. Definitely, family was emphasized, togetherness, doing things together. We had a close knit family growing up. And just like you said, the family values were instilled in us ever since we were young. And I agree. I just get a joy in seeing others win, seeing others overcome things that would hold them down, things that kept them bound. And so that's what leads me to it. The passion. It's like I know that I'm not put here on this earth just for myself. You can ask anybody about me. I'm very selfless, and so I just love doing it through community. Even as you were speaking about community, I'm reminded of just how they did it in the early church in the book of Acts, right? And you see like that Acts chapter 2, where they were going from the temple and going from house to house, breaking bread together. It's like this togetherness. They were selling their possessions and bringing the money, for the use of the kingdom. And it says like they were adding to their number daily from doing these things. So they were growing, similar to our church, as you were saying it. And it's like you said, it's countercultural because a lot of times in the Western world or here in America, things are about, climbing to the top, putting whoever you have to put down so that you can get it, going after the bag and whatever else. But it's important for us to serve others. There's more satisfaction in it. It's just something that I enjoy. And then it also encourages me and my faith. When I see people overcoming struggles, when I see them getting healed from things, you talked about our juice cleanse. Oh, it was so powerful. We had it in April. And I remember when people started it, they were talking about they had migraines, some had low energy. I mean, so many different problems, sometimes health issues, health concerns. And we embarked on this journey of a juice and vegetable cleanse, a 7-day juice and vegetable cleanse in faith, where we gathered every morning on a Zoom call just to pray together in unison for 15 minutes. My wife or myself would lead a devotional, and then we began to pray, and then we went about our day. And when I say the testimonials that have come from it, people were cured from their migraines, no longer feeling those headaches. People were talking about they had so much energy now. So it was like a detox, And so doing it together, like you said, I could just do something like that on my own. But what would that benefit, those that are around me? And how can I continue to live on and just see people struggling, people complaining? And sometimes they don't have the knowledge to overcome those things, or they just need the motivation and a push. And that's what we're about.
So when it comes to what you're doing, I'm sure that you came out of that with a lot of ideas and
Yes.
motivations, right? Affirmation that what you're doing is the right thing, because you didn't make that a large thing. I know you did an Instagram live. You talked about it. If you want to get
Yes,
involved, just
sir.
send me a message. If you were to take your brand of Catalyst Con, because now you're starting to develop clothing and hats
Yes,
and things of
sir.
that nature. If you were to say like 5 years from now, if you had your way, what would Catalyst kind of look like?
Wow. 5 years from now, I would say it definitely will be bigger in the sense that we will have like training programs, we'll have things that benefit people, like even in the form of counseling. It's not just even like just about health and wellness in our bodies. Like we have like plans to take this thing to even wellness in marriages and getting therapy in that sense or form. And so definitely consulting. 5 years from now, I can see us uh, even hosting our own events and things. I know right now I'm trying to connect people to events that are going on in the community. When I say events, I'm talking about whether they're like 5K races or if there's some business type of program, and we try to partner with others. But we want to have some of our own things where we can give people the information, the knowledge that they need, even when it comes to eating right. What does that look like? How can they practically do some of these things? And so it would be expansion. I definitely see growth and more people coming alongside the vision and wanting to partner with us so that it can grow. And so I know that God has some great plans through this business. And I know that our goal is not just to become wealthy, or we're not chasing after money, but more so results. We want to see people living their best lives. We want to see people, with joy in their heart. And as you can see, even in the logo of the merchandise that we have the cross in there because, yeah, the brand is Christian owned. But like you said, it's not just for Christians to be a part of. Them joining, whoever's coming from whatever background, they will get the inspiration too. And they can also receive an encounter from God by way of partaking in what we have to provide. And so I definitely see growth. I see us even possibly hiring people to help out because you can't do this thing on your own. Even you have helped me out with some advice because I really appreciate your business savvy and everything that you have through your experience. So yeah,
I think what's cool is now you have this to look back on in 5 years.
that's right.
I did that with Matt too. I had Matt Harris on my episode this
Okay.
week, and at
Yeah.
the end of our episode, we recorded it the morning of his conference, Friday morning. And I
Wow.
said I had him record a segment like, "Hey, what do you want to see out of this conference? So you can come back and
Yeah.
look at this, at the
Yeah.
end of the weekend." And I think what's cool is sometimes we become so enamored by our results that we don't look at the progress,
Right.
right? And we don't look at where we've been because we can become so encouraged, when we don't see the results because we can see the progress in our situation, whether that's growing in confidence or having the
Yes.
ability to get your voice out. I was telling people months ago, I'm never going to be a content creator. I'm not going to have my podcast. I just don't want to do these things. I'm not going to do my book and all
Yeah.
of these things that we put a label on ourselves,
Right.
and we become our biggest stumbling block in the
Yeah.
progress of our business, because at the end of the day there's not going to be a single person that opposes you, because either they don't do it or they do.
Yep.
So
That's right.
while it might be a difficult process, I think at the end of the day the only thing that's going to prevent you from seeing your goals accomplished, as long as they're reasonable, is whether or not you're willing to put the work in. So
Yes.
like I could even see like Catalyst Kind annual half marathon, annual
Come on.
5K, and just
Yes,
there's just
sir.
there's opportunities because it's developing from more than just a passion project to more of a global brand where it
Yeah.
might not even be known for fitness and nutrition. That might
Come on.
just be a branch, but it's really just going to be about, I think a lot of people misunderstand. You can either follow a brand if you like the product, or you
Right.
follow a movement if you like the person, right?
Yes.
I've
Yes.
heard quotes of successful people, self-made people, and they say like, if you took away all my money, give me X amount of time and I'll make it back,
Ooh.
right? But if
Yeah.
you give that money to a person that's not an innovator, that's not a hard worker, they're just going to lose it without a
Right.
strategy to get it back. So I think
Oh,
there's such a value in the building blocks of progress and
yeah.
process. Um, Part of what we're doing here, and I want to bring in a little bit about this podcast and maybe some
Sure.
information that I haven't quite shared with the general public.
Mm-hmm.
um, you talked about your business and your brand as, Christian in nature, hence the
Yes.
cross, but it's
Yes, sir.
it's in itself not a ministry. It's not
That's right.
linked to the happenings of a church, or
No,
where
sir.
the priority is not the preaching of the gospel, or the laying on of hands, or things of that nature.
Right.
But that
Right.
doesn't mean that it can't be a form of ministerial work, right? Because
Exactly.
of the message and the values and the character and the things that you're doing. And in the same way, when I first approached you about this idea of rendered hope, it wasn't actually in the context of a podcast. And what people don't know
Right.
is you and your wife have accepted roles as being a part of the board of the overall organization of
Yes,
Rendered
sir.
Hope. And you guys were, as of now, still the only ones that I've asked, just because of the value and the message and what we're doing here. And I don't want to quite reveal what the purposes are now, but
Yes.
what do you consider to be valuable when it comes to the way you spend your time, the things you put your mind into, because you don't
Yes.
have a ton of time. You did
Right.
mention you have three boys, you have a
Yes, sir.
job, you have a marriage, you have a ministry, you have a business,
Yes,
and
sir.
now as you step into this realm of content creation,
Yeah.
how do you determine where you and how you spend your time?
Wow, this is a great question. And the Lord has dealt with me in this area in the sense of creating a schedule. It's very important that I'm disciplined with my time, for the very fact that you mentioned all of the things that I have my hand in. And so even if I go away from the schedule is still there for me as a reference point. And so I spend my days, definitely in the morning time in prayer. I have to speak with the Father. I got to connect with Him. And before I start my day, it definitely starts my day off right. I also spend time in the Word of God. And when I say spend time, just as the Word is saying, to meditate upon it, I've grown in that area. There were times where it was just like reading it, like Bible in the year, which is good, Definitely, I go for that. But I think spending time, like even if it's just in a verse or a chapter, to really dissect it and understand it, and our church has provided even an opportunity for us to take some classes even on that, like hermeneutics and all those different things, to really dive in. And so I do spend that time that way. I also work, right now. I do work as a vocational rehabilitation counselor. And what that is I just help veterans with service connected disabilities to obtain and maintain employment, that those disabilities kind of hinder their ability to do so on their own. So we provide services through the VA to help them with that. And you know, after that, working in the day, coming home, I try to be active as much as possible to assist my wife in raising our kids and being there for them. So sometimes my time is spent, hey, just going out, bringing the boys out to ride their scooter or their bicycle, if they want to go to the park, if they want to run with us, we have jogging strollers. This is how you can incorporate your family in what you're doing. You don't have to kind of have like, okay, we're doing this over here, you guys go over there, because all that's going to bring is just frustration. So I had to grow in that area as well. So even if it's like prayer time, I do have my time with the Lord, just my time. But then there's also times where, hey, we could be getting ready to bathe the kids, and it's like, hey, let's enter into a time of prayer, and we'll put on like a little instrumental in the back on the TV while we're bathing the kids, and it's almost like an assembly line. My wife may be bathing them, and I'm putting on the lotion and getting them ready and whatever else. But then we're still praying, and I think the Lord honors that, and then the kids get to see that growing up, so that's instilled in them. And so, at the end, we do devotion with our children, and then in the nighttime, this is where you have that option. After all that is said and done, what are you going to do in the night now with the rest of the hours? We all have 24 hours in a day, but it's how you choose to spend that. And so that's very important. And so even from car rides, there are times where my prayer time with the Lord is in the car. So on the way on my commute to work or on the way home, I just really walk in the spirit. He leads me. And so that's how I spend majority of my time. Now, there also has to be time for studying. As I mentioned before, we're in some school, like almost like seminary school, kind of, right? And then you have, just all these different things, planning for business, but you have to also mark your days. So my days have different things for the evening times as well. So you can ask my wife, we really use like Google Calendar, and it's shared. And so she could see the schedule. She'll see, I see what she has going on. And then we just work well as a team together. And like I said, sometimes there might be a curveball thrown in it, and that's fine. We don't have to beat ourselves up and be too stringent where you can't be flexible. Things happen. I got little ones, and sometimes they're getting sick or whatever from daycare, school. So sometimes that throws the curve in there, but it doesn't keep us down. We get back up again.
One of the things you said is, in reference to your calendar, that even when things go off track, you still have it as a reference point. And I was
Yes,
having a
sir.
conversation with someone a few days ago, and just about how busy my life can be sometimes. And
Yeah.
even though I remember at the beginning of the year, I bought this really nice planner. I think I've used it
Oh,
3 times.
yeah.
It's
Got
leather bound. It comes in a folder, and
you.
I'll
Nice.
write something in there and close it and leave for 3 weeks. And
Right.
it's like, I've started to put things in my digital calendar because I've always just kind of remembered everything, but I want to be more accountable to myself. But with
Yes.
the framework of mind that your calendar would be a reference point, and giving yourself a little grace when things do fall off the rails. Because
Exactly.
sometimes the most productive thing you can do is not be productive. You know,
Right.
like
Right.
even this week alone, I've taken a few naps. Because
Ooh,
I have a
you hit the point
propensity
there.
to work at I have a propensity to work at night, where
Right.
I'll sleep a little bit during the day and get my work done in the nighttime, and just
Yes,
just the
sir.
way my brain allows me to work. There's nights where I'll get a whole cup of coffee at 11 o'clock at night, drink it, and I'm in bed by 11:30.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's just, I think the
God.
process of building, right? Because
Yes.
you're never going to be able to properly build if you don't make the time to build.
There you
No
go.
matter what you're doing, but sometimes we spread ourselves thin, right? So if there's a day, especially as your kids start to go to, you know, advanced levels in school, where now on a Thursday you're going to the school and you're doing this and you're going to this practice and you're going to this game.
Right.
It's really important that even now you're building these foundations for yourself where things can almost be self-sustainable. And you mentioned the need for help and the need to
Yes.
bring the right people onto your team. Not
Come on.
just a body, but a person that will carry your vision and treat it like they would treat their own thing.
Yeah.
So what do you think that process looks like for you, when it comes to building your brand and
Yeah.
trusting it to someone else who might not have the same level of passion for as you have? But what does that level of stewardship and delegation, in your opinion, look like?
Wow. Well, I believe we all have different strengths and weaknesses, even when it comes to business or administration. I know you know all about that. And so there are some areas that I may be strong. It could be like in the area of passion and speaking. But then when it comes to, the organization and the administration part, I got to be able to delegate that to someone that is excellent in that. And so they may not have the same passion, but there's something in them that I say, okay, they're really skilled in that. And of course, I'm going to pray about it, but I know the Lord will give us discernment to be able to determine, like, okay, who is on board. And I'll be able to see certain signs. And it's a decision that, I'll discuss it with my wife. But we definitely want to bring people on that they don't have to be carbon copies of us, but that they see the vision, that they agree with it. Like, yes, this is something beneficial. And so it's just about being honest with yourself, knowing that, you know, we're not strong in all areas. And so we need people that have the expertise or the willingness to learn about certain areas of building this business, this brand, and wanting to just support and be on board. Right now, we have something called Catalyst Kind running, and we have a nice group. It's small, but it's growing steadily where people are being a part of it, even joining through our club on Strava. And what happens is we're all encouraging each other. Some are walkers, some are not running. Even though it's saying Catalyst Kind running, we have people in the group that, they are walking miles and they're feeling the benefits of that now. They're starting to turn into exercising more and lifting and getting stronger. And then before you know it, they might want to dabble into some running. And so you have people at different levels, but it's just beautiful to see everyone cheering each other on, giving each other kudos. So the same thing of like if you give somebody you like a post in Strava, they have this thing called kudos. And so you can post your workout and it just feels good when someone is cheering you on. They could be in another city. So this is not something that's just only for people that are here in Virginia. You can be a part of this from wherever you are. And so this is also a form of being a part of Catalyst Kind, being a part of this run club that we have started. But just like you said, this is just one facet of the business and of the brand that we are starting through the health and wellness. But there will be so many other areas that we want to develop, and we will need a team in order to do so.
So when this episode goes live, I'd love to link your social medias and even your Strava Run Club, and give people an opportunity that watch this,
Yes.
whether when it comes out or in the future, just the
Yes, sir.
opportunity to get involved with that. With that being said, first I want to note that I haven't heard the word kudos in many years. Um, but at the same time, could you kind of just explain very quickly what Strava is for those who don't know?
Yeah, sure. So Strava is just a fitness app that's utilized to track like your miles, track your workouts. So you can do activities like any type of weightlifting, anything if it's swimming. And if you connect the app to something that you wear, like a watch, whether you use like your Apple Watch or if you have different types like a Fitbit or whatever you choose to use. I use like the Coral Space 2. You can sync your watch with this app. And after you've done your workout, it will automatically upload to the app. And it's just a way to see like how you're growing, and you're exercising and things of that nature. And then also they have opportunities for you to join different clubs in the area if you're interested in doing this through community. And so I found Strava, like I said, back in 2020 or so. When I was looking at other apps, I was like on the Adidas running app. I even tried the Nike one. And, it was cool. Some people have those apps. That's great. But I really, connected with the Strava one and then formed a group. And now it's definitely picking up. There are times even like you can understand this when you're starting a business from the ground up. And sometimes, you don't get the reaction right away. Like you see the vision and you don't see people buying in like that. And that could be discouraging. But I will encourage people to hold on, to just keep going,
Absolutely.
keep building, because it's if it's not now, it's for a later time. That's why the Bible talks about write the vision and make it plain. And so when you build this thing, it's for a later time. And so I feel like the time is now. I really feel like the Lord has really breathed on this thing for this season. So at times where we were starting things, we were hosting events, and we'll get some traction, and then or some people will come and go. But now we're seeing like, okay, this is really moving forward.
I feel the same way, man. Like, for example, this episode, I know a majority of the people that will ever watch this episode, they might not
Yeah,
be here for another 6 months, another year, and that's all right,
right.
you know. And
Exactly.
I've kind of had those conversations with myself, of
Good.
I need to do this thing and produce this thing as if I had an audience of 1,000 people.
Come on.
Even like the idea of posting every Monday, every other Thursday. I'm going to pretend like there's about 100 people waiting for me to post this thing.
They're coming.
Even
They're
if
coming.
even if they weren't, and it's just those
Yes.
habits we develop within ourselves of consistency. You don't want to be
Yes.
caught where overnight you have 500 people waiting on you and you have the
Right.
consistency of someone who hasn't even started yet.
Right.
Um,
That's
when
so
it comes
good.
to Strava, is this something you would recommend for anyone, or is it only good for outdoor, indoor? What would you say it's good for?
100%. I recommend it for anyone. They're not paying me. There's no
Oh
partnership
yeah,
with it.
this is not sponsored.
Right.
There's no discount. There's no discount
I'm,
code.
right. No discount code. I
Let's
must put that out there, but it is free.
Yeah,
To join, they do have like a paid version where you can get like more in-depth analysis and things, but you don't have to pay anything.
yeah,
I recommend it for people that do indoor activities. They do have options where if you're like doing like a stationary bike ride, you can put that in there and track that. It's all available, like all activities. And then they have challenges as well, like each month. If you want to walk a certain amount of miles in the month and then you accept the challenge, you get badges for it. So it's just a way to just encourage you and, to keep going and keep going strong. And then when you join our group, for those that, you're going to see the link, we do the same thing. I'm in there making posts. I plan to do some more of giving people, you know,
more
advice
kudos.
or more kudos for sure. But there's even information when it comes to like proper stretching and hydrating and things of that nature. We want people to do things well. We're not just saying, hey, just come out and just run with us. We want you
Yeah,
to have the proper form. We want you to do the right breathing. So these are the type of things that we do. We have a workout that would be passed when this episode drops, but this coming weekend, we're gathering some people for a catalyst kind of workout. That's what I dubbed it. And we might have some other names that come out as we build and do things more consistently. But it's going to be on a track. And on the track, we're going to do some actual track workouts where we'll be doing some intervals where we're doing some jogging. Then we might do speed for a few minutes. We'll have some pauses in between. And then we're also going to have people come out that want to power walk. And so I have how many times they're going to be going out on the track. So it's going to be like, it's real structured and formatted well so that everyone could be a part of it. And you can even bring the jogging strollers or the strollers on the track. And so there's no excuse as to like why you wouldn't be a part of it.
Look, and we won't tell them yet, but by month 3, you're gonna have them on the bleachers.
Yes, sir. Come on.
But yeah, man, that's so good. And for, again,
Thank
for
you.
those who check this episode out, you can keep up with what he's doing on social media,
Yes.
and follow them, and anything that happens, you'll be able to not only see what they're doing, but you'll see testimonials and the faces
Oh,
of those who are buying in, and even through the Strava, running club and things like that. Just give yourself a reason to get motivated.
yes.
And what I would suggest, and for me,
Hmm.
I'm there at 5 a.m. or I'm not there,
Right,
and
right,
and
right.
but
Got
but
you.
find something that works for you. If you're
Yeah.
listening to this, if you're watching this, you don't have to be and do and put in the same level of commitment and hours as
Come
someone
on.
who's been more experienced. But the first day is always the most important day, and
Right.
and and the second day is a little more important than the third day, and as long as you keep stringing together good days. But as we wind down, I just want to thank you again for being with me today. And this has been a great conversation. And I'm so
Yes,
excited
facts.
just to see everything that you're doing, and the way you're leading that, according to the vision you have. If anyone's watching this and wants to keep up with you, could you just let them know where they can find you, and where they can keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. Most definitely. You can find Catalyst Kind on Instagram at Catalyst Kind. And also, you can follow my page on Instagram as well. And it's just Joshua A. and my last name, Nyarko. And that's also on Instagram or on Facebook, Joshua Nyarko, or Facebook. You can look up Catalyst Kind. We have a page on there as well. The website will be coming shortly, where we will be dropping a website where you can support us by purchasing some merchandise, basically representing Catalyst, because we're not just about pushing this brand, but also raising up other catalysts so that you can be the difference or the change in your family or in your community. And so right now we have some hats and shirts available, and there's much more. We definitely want to come out with some more active wear so that people can be wearing that while they exercise. And, why not support a brand that's supporting you?
That's great. And then we'll also attach information on how to join the Strava Club in the description,
Yes.
whether you're
Yes.
watching this on YouTube or listening to this on Spotify. And you guys will hear from Joshua again in the near future. So
Yes.
if you're watching this, listening to this, feel free to leave a comment. If you have any questions for him, I'm sure he'll read them and he can get
Oh,
back
yeah.
to you at his own time. He's definitely reachable. So, with that being said, again, Josh, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you. I
And I
appreciate
will talk to you very soon. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know I had a great time speaking with Joshua. I hope that it speaks to you volumes, whether you are a business owner, someone trying to change their lifestyle, raising your children, or anything in between. With that being said, we will be back with you this Thursday with an audio exclusive only on Spotify. So make sure you're following along with that if you haven't already done so. And again, leave a like, leave a subscription, leave a comment, and we will be back with you soon with another episode of the Rendered Hope podcast. Have a great day.